Justin Botillier, CEO of Calyx CPA. Today I'm here with famous Courtney Moran, attorney here in Oregon. She owns Earth Law LLC. And thank you, Courtney, for giving me some time to be able to have you here and ask you some questions about hemp. Before I have you introduce your business and tell me more about what you do with your firm, the reason why I wanted to take a moment of your time was because I've been getting a lot of questions about THCa and whether or not that is something that people in the state of Oregon at least can do. I know that there are other states too that have different interpretations of the Farm Bill. I am not 100% clear on what Oregon allows. And so why don't you introduce yourself? And then if you could start with answering some questions around that, the Farm Bill, and then Oregon's take on the Farm Bill and what is hemp? I mean, ultimately this question is like, what is marijuana? What is hemp? What is allowed for interstate commerce? What is not allowed for interstate commerce? So if you wouldn't mind.
All real easy questions, Justin. There's no debate at all. Everything is black and white.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, because I'm not aware.
I'm kidding here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right?
I'm Courtney Moran. I'm the founding principal of Earth Law LLC. We are a law firm based here in Oregon with our primary focus on industrial hemp and hemp product compliance. And I also have a national lobbying firm, Agricultural Hemp Solutions, and we work on hemp policy at both the state and federal level. So federally, what is hemp defined as? Well, we have a definition for hemp from the 2018 Farm Bill. This is a definition that has evolved between the farm bills from originally the 2014 Farm Bill, which defined industrial hemp, and the 2018 Farm Bill, which defined hemp. And looking just at those two definitions and the evolution of that policy, we see that Congress was working to protect hemp below that 0.3% Delta 9 THC, signaled in previous letters to the agencies, DEA, FDA, USDA, regarding their interpretations in both the 2014 and 2018 Farm Bills, what they were working to protect. But further within the definition of the 2018 Farm Bill, look to the additional words that are included, including cannabinoids, derivatives, and extracts. So that's the overarching federal definition that we have. But how states and how our federal agencies have then interpreted that definition in subsequent authority is what has created some very understandable confusion, by both regulators, law enforcement, as well as the industry itself. So we have USDA, they put out final rules. They were first issued in January of 2021, became effective in March of 2021, and really became the law of the land on January 1st of 2022. And that put in specific requirements around the cultivation of hemp. And looking to the testing authority that was provided in the 2018 Farm Bill, USDA took the approach that it is a total THC analysis. So that conversion of THCa with Delta 9 that sets the threshold for compliance within cultivation and to determine whether a crop is lawfully hemp or is it illegal marijuana production. And so that's where we have federal authority regarding the cultivation itself.
Yeah, so then as far as so to answer my question a little bit, it pretty much included THC, total THC. And so now we have an interpretation now where people are saying, well, because it's not THCa is not THC, then THC must be allowed under the Farm Bill as well. And because it's not THC, is that, I mean, what's your take on that? Because I do know that I have seen an article, and I think it was Missouri, and who knows if it's true. I didn't like look at this. I just read it, and it was talking about how a business was like, I guess it was there was some sort of criminal penalties for selling THCA, and then the state of Missouri, I believe it was, said that no, this is hemp under the Farm Bill's definition. And so that's kind of where like people are confused, and I'm just trying to gain clarity on like, is it legal? And we're in the state of Oregon, so I mean, I think that I understand that Oregon's a little bit more strict on what it deems as hemp. And so what does it say hemp is here in Oregon, at least?
Excellent question. And so really we're getting to the next level of analysis, because there's clear federal guidance from the agency on what is allowable for hemp cultivation, right? And then we get to the next level of what happens post-harvest. What happens in those manufacturing facilities? What is happening in regards to transportation authority? What is happening in regards to product sales? And what happens after the moment of harvest? We really don't have any clear federal guidance, right? The DEA has given statements regarding Delta 8. They've given statements around THCO, not specifically around THCA.
Mm-hmm.
USDA does not regulate after the material is harvested. Of course, FDA has not put out, regulations around products, let alone CBD, of course, not getting to the intoxicating products, other than some, consumer warning documents. So what's happened is that each state has gone on their own volition to set up regulations. And so we are seeing a state-by-state patchwork where some states are very specifically and explicitly regulating what's happening within the manufacturing facilities, what is and is not allowed to be transported, and what is and is not allowed to be sold. And some have been silent. Some are allowing manufacturing, but not allowing sale. Some are allowing sale, but not manufacturing. Some have specific THC limits on what can be transported by who. So the interpretation is left up currently to the states. And there are definitely different legal opinions out there as to what products are legal federally. Different lawyers are looking at it differently. Law enforcement is looking at it differently. Agencies are looking at it differently. Mm-hmm. And also cannabis regulators are looking at it differently than some of the hemp regulators. So we have a lot of differing opinions that are going on. And so of course it's creating a lot of confusion in general in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's where we're kind of left, and that's why there is a lot of ambiguity and there's people now selling THC products online. And I guess I should have reiterated, I'm just assuming my audience understands that THCA is a precursor to THC, and once combusted, THCA becomes THC and thus is marijuana. Would you say that, I forget if you answered my question, in Oregon, does Oregon assume THCA is hemp? Or is it, how does Oregon look at THCA?
Right. So Oregon is a total THC state, and they follow that through not only through cultivation, but all the way through product sales. Okay. So Oregon has put in limits on what can be done in manufacturing facilities. They have limits on what can actually be transported by who, and they have additional limits on import-export, as well as additional limits on specific product sales. And so Oregon is one of only a handful of states that have gone to that level of regulation to actually set out concentration limits for different types of products for every stage of the process. Mm-hmm. Like I said, some states haven't touched this at all. And so we are seeing in the, in the news, we're seeing high THC beverages, we're seeing high THCa flour, we're seeing these other products out there, are they legal? Questionable. Are these products appropriately labeled? Are consumers aware of what they're getting? And so it does raise a lot of public safety concerns that we're constantly, consistently hearing from regulators and from law enforcement. But then there's also, the argument about the economic opportunity that's out there, the market that has already been built, and, different lobbies advocating to keep these doors open. So we have a lot of varying interests out there.
So one of the things that like people who might be watching this video can do if they're more interested in this, like for most of my cultivation clients, we're in Oregon. And unfortunately for them, growing THCA products and getting them confirmed or credentialed as hemp in the state of Oregon is probably not going to happen. And there could be some like criminal actions, enforcement actions taken against them. Now, what about, so what I was gonna say is that if you, as a listener to this, is interested in learning more about each state's hemp rules and regulations, or whether or not they might be a little bit more flexible than Oregon, then you can definitely call Courtney for that, because she's going to be able to help you get more information. But let me ask you a couple more questions, Courtney. Now let's take the opposite of that. Like, let's say you're in a more flexible or THCA friendly state, and they're now pumping THCA products out. What is kind of allowed? Is it state to state again? Like, obviously, if you're growing hemp in one of the more THCA friendly states, or I guess a little bit more liberal interpretation of the Farm Bill, I guess you could say that, and they are allowing THCA to be considered hemp, and then now they're not going to keep them from crossing state lines. Can they sell in Oregon? Can they sell their hemp products in Oregon?
So I want to provide one piece of clarification before I answer,
please
because the law of the land on cultivation is total THC. USDA established that, and that became effective in every jurisdiction cultivating hemp on January 1st of 2022. So theoretically, no jurisdictions are allowing THCA specific cultivation. They have to meet that 0.3 total THC standard.
Okay.
So what's happening following that, is this material actually hemp? Did it actually come from a lawful hemp farm that was harvested compliantly? That's an important question. What is then subsequently happening in that manufacturing facility? What are these products that are actually going out there? And then where they're going will depend upon, are these products actually legal for that particular marketplace? And so I'm aware of attorneys that have these generic legal opinions out there that are looking solely at that definition of hemp in the 2018 Farm Bill, and really not pulling, from my perspective, a full analysis of these different pieces that need to really be included in this analysis. And so I know of folks that have taken these opinions, they purchased these generic opinions, they're saying, well, I have this opinion from a lawyer, I can take it, I'm going to argue that my material, it's high THCA, it might meet 0.3 delta 9, but it's high THCA, and I'm going to argue that it's legal. And I know of folks that have done this. They did their first shipment. Next thing you know, the material was seized and they've been charged with 2 felonies. Mm-hmm. So having a generic opinion that really isn't tied to your specific operations, your products, where your market actually is, I caution you, just because there can be very serious consequences if you are not paying attention to what is happening and what your particular products are and where they are and where they're going through. So I understand that there's a lot of excitement about this potential new market, and we want to support that, but we also want to make sure that people are making responsible business decisions and that they do really know what is going on, because we are seeing states change their regulations almost on like a daily basis. There's new states putting in rules, there's new legislation going forward, there are court decisions that are in the works. And so there's all these different levels of where enforcement is in different jurisdictions. And so it's important to really be apprised of those changes that are happening.
Yeah. Well, I think that clarifies it. Thank you for reiterating that the stance is total THC from a federal level. And did anything change between 2018 and now that would give people the impression that THCA can be considered hemp versus THC, or was it like a new interpretation that just came out? Because it seems to me that people were like trying to skirt the hemp THC boundary for a while, but all of a sudden it just seems like it blew up. I heard that there was a football ad that was advertising a website that was selling THCA as hemp. I did visit the site, and indeed they are selling THCA products saying that they're hemp. I just wonder if that's more of kind of like a mushroom house kind of a thing, where in Portland, there was somebody who set up shop selling magic mushrooms, assuming that it's legal, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just some sort of scheme that had been done, but they were shut down and people were criminally prosecuted. Could you answer that question? Do you recall anything changing that would all of a sudden give people the impression that this is okay?
I think what's happened is that under the 2014 Farm Bill, the law was just Delta 9, and most jurisdictions were following a Delta 9 threshold. Even in Oregon, all of our cultivation and really our end products were around Delta 9. Once the 2018 Farm Bill language came into play and departments of justice and agencies were seeing where USDA was going, they very quickly changed the cultivation rules to total THC. Some immediately changed their end product rules to total THC, but some did not. So Tennessee is a perfect example. Tennessee, because they're going through rulemaking literally as we speak right now. And so they, of course, every jurisdiction had to be a total THC for cultivation. That's what the USDA program requires, but they had remained a Delta 9 state for end products. And so these products have been allowed, but now they had statutory language passed last year. They're in rulemaking right now. And now they're proposing to change from this Delta 9 standard to a total THC standard that includes isomers, that includes the THCA. So now there's concern there by folks in the market, of course, and in the industry, that now their products would no longer be legal, products that they have been selling. I think there's maybe also been confusion with the opinion that came out from the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit clarified that the Delta 8 derivatives are compliant, right? But they are meeting still those THC thresholds. And so I think it's some of that and some of the statements by the DEA specifically about synthetics, about Delta 8. DEA agrees about the legality of Delta 8 as long as it does actually come from hemp and is below the 0.3. So I think that folks have seen that there is different opinions around what's happening with cultivation versus what's happening in the market. And this industry is very clever, very creative. They are seeing numerous opportunities and they're going for it, whether the law is there to support it or not. If we look even at the adult use programs, there's still no federal authority for those, right? But we have state authority. And while those markets are confined within the bounds of the state, that we are still pushing the bounds of what the law allows on a federal level. So are there arguments that attorneys can make if we look solely at that definition of hemp under the 2018 Farm Bill to demonstrate legality of THCA? Sure. Is that the whole picture? No. And so is DEA the one that's going to be knocking on your door? Probably not. Is it local law enforcement or a state agency? More likely. And so that's why it's important folks are really understanding what's happening in your state, where you're located, where you're manufacturing, where you're shipping from, what's happening in the states where your customers are.
Yeah.
You know, some states are even trying to add, like Oregon, a product registry, right? Any product that comes into this state eventually will have to be registered with OLCC. It's the current legislation that will start with the session next week. And so folks really need to be aware that agencies are becoming more and more aware of these products that are out there. They are concerned about public safety. They are putting in parameters that they think will provide that public safety and that oversight. And that is what's coming. And just even hearing from different agencies and also from not only the regulators, but also from the marijuana industry, there's a lot of concern about the impact that this is having on those state approved programs. And so there are other interests that are focused on making sure that these products do have oversight and that they do have regulation. So for folks that are selling these products in the market, it's really important to watch what is happening, what are your requirements, and making sure that you're following those so that you don't have, you know, some unforeseen consequence happen just because you are trying to get a product to market.
Right, right. Yeah, and you pointed out like which agency might be knocking on your door, and I recall numerous people being busted by Homeland Security here in Southern Oregon not too long ago, and getting even if they weren't growing, their people's property was being seized, their equipment was being seized, their greenhouses were being knocked down, everything that they put, and as far as I knew, they were trying to be legit, at least under Oregon's hemp laws. And even though they, you know, and then it's like once that happens, it's devastating. Even if you do have a piece of paper that says, I'm a hemp farmer, like when they come in and they take everything from you and knock your entire business down, there's no recourse for you. Like you can get lawyers involved, but all you end up getting is more lawyer bills. You don't get your money back. I don't know anybody, and I know at least 5 people over the years that have been beaten up by the federal authorities, and none of them got anything back. They all just paid lawyer fees thinking that they're going to get money back, and they never did. They never got their life back. So that's where I caution people. I said this to you before, Courtney. We use a pretty aggressive interpretation of the tax code to help people, reduce their tax liabilities due to 280E and all that stuff. And we're very defensible. It's very defensible. It's backed by other tax attorneys. It's aggressive. But the worst case scenario, even then, is that your C corporation, say, were to get audited. The argument would stay there. It would stay at that corporate entity level. It wouldn't spill over onto you personally. It's not criminal. So just be careful with this false sense of security that people, having a Department of Ag hemp license give, just because you have that, or you have this opinion by an attorney that it's going to protect you from the fallout of having the federal authorities come knocking at your door. Anyway, thank you.
Federal or state. Yeah, federal or state, you're 100% right. And the other thing I would just add is, we are in Farm Bill time, right? I mean, Farm Bill expired last year and it's been extended out, but we are negotiating the Farm Bill right now. And whether or not the definition of hemp changes, whether we go to a national total THC standard, if there's other, bills that become introduced around this, it's a conversation that is alive and well in Congress. And it is honestly taking the majority of the time for a lot of folks in Congress to grapple with these issues, seeing what's happening in the marketplace and debating public safety versus enforcement versus the economic opportunities that are out there. And so there are a lot of debates around this particular issue, and it's really exciting. And, we want to ensure that people are able to get their products to market, but they need to do so in a way that's safe, not only for the consumers, but for themselves as well.
Right on. Courtney, is there anything else you want to say to the people who might be listening or watching this recording, in terms of how they can get a hold of you, or some of the lobbying that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. So if anyone's interested in getting into more specifics about Oregon or other state programs, we are happy to do a consultation or even put together a 50-state analysis for you. You can contact us through earthlawllc.com or email us directly at info@earthlawllc.com. And also, we are available for lobbying, both on a state and federal level. I've worked in numerous states. We have a current bill going before Congress right now that is hopeful to be in the upcoming Farm Bill, the Industrial Hemp Act of 2023. So please feel free to also reach out to us at agriculturalhempsolutions.com. Thanks so much, Justin. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect.